So police, we got your,
We have to respond, Michael, so we don't have any.
Yeah.
Report on the staff.
Bathroom.
I'll wait for a minute.
Police service. I have made a tentative offer to a gentleman for the sergeant's position that has been accepted. So we're beginning a lot of the background processes, and we'll report back more as they conclude.
And part of that does have to do with our budget discussion next week also, on how quick that is built.
Couple of technical questions. If we find we don't have money for that position, what do we tell that individual?
Well, I've already explained to him that we are going through the budget review and generally what has been transpiring, and that there will be time involved in it. There is no specific date at this point where we can say this is when we can or cannot hire. And he understands that. He is employed at this time, and so he's basically waiting to hear. So if he passes the background, then it will be when we can tell him he can start or not.
But he is aware that we are going through it.
That improvement there shows an applying on that.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Alrighty. Our emergency service?
A couple of things, Your Honor. One of the things this council has had a verbal moratorium on grants that have matching funds. And so I come before you tonight to tell you that the fire department has received a $170,000 SAFER grant to augment our fourth person that we've hired, and would like your indulgence in that. We get 2 years of the employee, and then we have to fund them the third year. We discussed it in the public safety meeting, and the recommendation was to come forward with the grant and ask you to approve letting us accept the money with the proviso that we have the secret millionaire money at the end of the second year to fund that person for the fourth year. So, pardon?
Third year.
Third year. Yeah, it's at the end of the second in order to fund the third year. So, I'd like a consensus with that, if we could do that.
Essentially what this is, a 2-year fund.
Yep.
Isn't the
It's just
secret
like the
millionaire
secret
supposed
grant's always been
to have
so.
funded?
Excuse me?
Wasn't the secret millionaire money supposed to have funded the fourth person?
It is. It's augmenting that
So we'll
funding.
make it 6
But what
years.
it would do is buy us 2 years.
So it'd be 6 years.
Yeah.
So it'd be 6 instead of 4.
And I don't want to rain on parades. Again, next week we have to talk about funding issues
Well, I think
and how long it
the
goes.
secret millionaire money, when they gave that money to the fire department, it has to go to the fire department.
Well, yeah, I understand that.
For the purpose, for the ambulance and people.
Right,
One
for what it was meant for.
We
Yeah.
would still be doing
Oh,
that.
no, I understand that.
Yeah. The secret millionaire money is using money that's. That's what we're talking about.
Is it something we'll discuss in work session?
Yes, just a motion, just a report.
Actually, Your Honor, I think with the recommendation of the Public Safety Committee, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe because we are wanting to accept this money, I believe that a motion is probably in order for the council to accept this money, because it is $170,000.
Yeah, just understand this is not matching money.
No.
Tim and I have a disagreement on
I
it.
know.
Matching money you pay up front. You don't pay it at the tail end. This is the same as SAFER grants have always been. It used to be 3 years, 5 years. At the end of that time, you were funded for so long, for so many people, lots of departments during that time of the winter. It used to be on a sliding scale where you started at 100% they gave you, and next year it was 90 and 80 until it was none. Same thing. It's just saying it in a little different manner, but it's still going to come up with how much money?
107.
I mean, at that last year.
It's totally funded for 2 years. We have to come up
But
with
the
year
value
3.
of that third year is what?
70. Well, it's going to be about $80,000.
So you're talking about really the city picking up $80,000 at the end of
Well,
the
except
year.
that third year, we have the millionaire money.
Yeah.
that would
Which we are
pay that.
scheduled to do anyway.
Yes.
And there's nothing that says we can't put the millionaire money in a reserve fund for that purpose and
Right, that's my goal.
Council Pierce,
But what you were talking about earlier was that it'd be $50,000 per person so you could have 4 people instead of 3 people. Well, basically, it came out to $50,000 per person. Now you're saying it's $80,000 per person for 1 year.
It's a $50,000 contribution to make up the difference between 3 persons increased wages to cover the shifts to 4 persons decreased wages, so that the margin, you have to come up with 50,000 to make 4 people rather than 3.
And the cost of that 4 is about $80,000. So there's 30,000 of city funds already in there, and we're adding the additional 50 to make it whole.
And as Louis said, we really won't know how that's gonna float out until next week. If you say no tonight, what's the impact?
We could turn it back.
We'd have to turn back.
Yeah.
And we already did that once.
Right.
If you do it again, you won't never get another safer grant.
Your Honor, my council, my recommendation is that we do accept it, because it could assist us down the road as part of our deficit issue that we're dealing with. And no, we won't touch any of the millionaire money that's for that. However, what might get loosened up by receiving the grant may assist us with our deficit. So
You are saying that if we agree to take this, in the third year, the money
We
that
fund
is
it.
coming into that will come from the millionaire grant.
Correct.
Well, we have the option to use it that way.
Or if we have money in the city coffers,
yeah,
to pay for it, we'll still keep it in reserve.
We're holding the money right now.
yes, yeah, it's being treated as a restricted fund for that.
Well, I guess and it's not my concern, but I trust both of you gentlemen explicitly, don't get me wrong, but would be that we take this grant and then next year we spend the $200,000 on something else, and in 3 years we have to.
I
Don't work that way.
It's not gonna happen.
no,
Because we govern
I would make the motion then that we go ahead and accept the grant, the safer grant.
I second.
Moved by Councilor Coy and seconded by Councilor Gazer. Accept the grant. Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question. Bottom line, I guess what I want to know is the city going to be out getting money if we accept it?
pardon?
Trying to follow the discussion, are we going to be out, is the city going to be out any money if we accept that?
The third year we will.
The third year, but we have money set aside to cover
But
at
I
least
mean, the
2/3.
millionaire money, right, so,
Right.
so really, we're not at all.
We don't know.
Not on this piece.
And we were gonna do this anyway, right?
Pardon?
We were gonna do this anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote.
Councilor Clark,
Aye.
Mayor Shorey,
Aye.
Councilor Cody,
Aye.
Councilor Fortune, Councilor Biggerstaff,
Aye.
Councilor Slavin,
Aye.
Councilor Baszler,
Motion carries.
Then the other item I have for you is our activity report. The city administrator asked to break this out into staff, student, and volunteer hours based on 4 categories. You see their projects. That's kind of an interesting one because the staff is doing projects. That's what we pay them to do. So we did not separate that out for them. That's part of their normal everyday activity. And so that's why you see the zeros in the student and staff hours. But you got 32 hours of volunteer time, either building something for the station, building training props, whatever they're doing at the time. It also includes some of their volunteer work outside of the fire department. So if we go down and time relay races or something of that nature, you'll see that show up in the special projects. They're pretty self-explanatory. Those are man hours or person hours, if you prefer. And then there at the bottom, you have our call volume. We had 4 fires in the month of January and 58 medical calls and public assist is the PA. And that's a person that calls and says, there's not really anything wrong with me, I need you to help me pick my grandfather up off the floor and get him back in bed, or something of that nature. So that's what the PAs are. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're down to committee reports. Report from boards and committees. Administration.
We
met. Did you want to go to report?
No, go ahead. I forgot that the mayor was there now. Little confusion.
We met with basically what we discussed regarding the supplemental budget and the things that were already brought to our attention tonight.
Okay. Chamber of Commerce had a meeting, board meeting Tuesday. Did you go?
I'm not on the board.
Oh, that's right.
The board meeting?
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. I'm backing up. We're back to committee research. Jim Coy.
We're meeting tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Right here.
Okay.
We're supposed to meet today, but we had to change it.
I need to find out, because people have been chatting Josh in their meetings, what days are on, what days people are. And administration's on what day, what time and what day, I should say.
No, go to the news.
Your typical meeting is what day and what time?
We're going to schedule it for the day after the first council meeting of the month. So the Friday.
Friday after the council meeting.
Yeah, the first council meeting.
So 10 a.m.? Council?
Yes.
Administration is going to meet on the third Tuesday of the month at 10:30.
So third Tuesday, we were at 4th, so. Yeah, we were doing 4th Tuesday.
Are you sure?
Yes, because Ernie showed up on the 3rd, you had it on the 4th. So I'll do whichever one, you guys just tell me.
So change that to the 4th.
4th Tuesday, so that's
Raise your hand. 4th Tuesday? The 4th Tuesday.
4th Tuesday, at what time?
City Hall.
10?
So that's when we have our public safety meeting on the 4th Tuesday.
We'll change it.
Well, and I've slowly started to knock down shelves in the old library.
And I emphasize slowly.
So we can find some room.
Hey, so change it back to the third Tuesday. That's when administration. That's a good idea.
Third Tuesday? Okay.
Now you see why my chart looks all goofy.
This will be on the new website, by the way, on our beautiful new website calendar.
The reason we need to know this, it has to be publicized.
My operation going to do that.
And public safety.
It's the 4th Tuesday of the month.
Time.
Yes, at noon, no, 2.
So
And the audit committee, I think, is it still?
It's the 4th Thursday, except we're gonna need to reschedule this one, that's the same time as the Elcott review.
I am so sorry. I am coming.
Susan, Stumblefoot. Audit committee is fourth Tuesday, fourth Thursday, last Thursday, or the fourth Thursday?
It's not enough. It means when there's an audit to
But it's usually on the fourth, last Thursday.
The 4th Thursday, because I had it wrong in January.
Yes,
So we're not, we may or may not have one this month.
we don't have any more audits this month to go through.
No, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about, depending on what happens next week.
right, and so there may be a reason to do the audit piece after we have our discussion. Yes.
All right, that was fun. That's a 6. Okay. All right, back to, did I get to? Tomorrow morning. Public safety?
Well, we pretty much discussed what we discussed, and our next meeting is the 4th Tuesday at 12 o'clock.
And we didn't have an audit committee.
Yes, you did.
Okay, would you like to put it on the right?
I wasn't there because I thought it was the last Thursday of the month.
And I wasn't either. Did
You
have it?
told me.
Did you have it? Oh,
You were here.
I
Yeah.
was here. I
You
said,
were
"Yeah,
here.
I didn't meeting brain yet. So many meetings.
It was a discussion of the audit that was received. We went through the recommendations from the auditors that they made as far as improving processes and procedures. We discussed a little bit, there was a question that Don had brought up over the fact that there was no personnel services through the admin, and I went back through my correspondence and back and forth with the auditors. So I knew we had gone through that, but I didn't want to give the information unless I would, tell them 100% sure of what we had done. And that actually was moved. There was a process that was involved in there. I emailed her that. And that was kind of the discussion on the audit. It was more that we made a lot of progress from the previous audits as far as bringing up our processes where we are now, not from that audit that concluded for the previous year. When the auditors were here, we went over a lot of the things that they'd like to see changes made, and we've implemented a lot of their recommendations from this current year that has not been audited yet.
Actually, I thought the most productive thing is we actually defined what the purpose of the audit committee was. I don't know if you know about that, that's kind of like a bylaws thing. And because we were sort of floundering, that's why we're here. And we used their model that was going through it for a long. And if you need a copy of that, we can
Susan, do you have a copy of that?
I was not with me, there's probably one in your office.
Well, okay, could you get it scanned? So we send it to all the council.
They send it to Christine. All right. Same council governments board.
We actually have a meeting on the 28th, the night of the dinner.
Oh, okay. So you're going to.
It's before the dinner, it's going to be about half an
Oh,
hour.
it is before the dinner.
Your Honor, can I interject at that point?
Certainly.
So is there anyone else here besides Councilor Slavin, Councilor Fortune that plan on attending the dinner? So, the mayor, okay. And I may attend, I'm not sure yet. So that'll be 4 of us. Anybody else plan on attending? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and rather than say it's going to the dinner, it's actually for appreciation awards, appreciation night for people. You don't represent the chamber, you're on the chamber. Yeah, you're still on the chamber.
I attend the chamber meetings,
That's what I mean.
but I'm not on the board.
Oh, got you confused.
Your Honor, I can report on that. Part of what I stated earlier about the different courses of action that they're trying to take. They're trying to do SOPs. They're trying to go more of a customer service model, serving their constituents. So that's primarily what we were talking about in the last meeting last week. So, and they have been working on their bylaws. It seemed pretty positive to me. I've only been to a couple of their meetings, and so far it's been fairly positive.
All right, Middle Fork, well, I guess I'm the Middle Fork Willamette Watershed Council representative. I haven't been there yet because I don't know when they meet.
I think I forwarded something to you, Your Honor, and I just got something, and I'll forward you that.
Yeah, if you would, I would like to go to those. I just want to coordinate over. Trails Committee, Jim Coy.
That would have been the GOATS meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, and there should be another one coming up within the next.
We don't really have a Trails Committee. Main reading on Stephanie. I haven't been fortunate.
I'll be attending my first meeting later this month.
Tree Planning Committee, Christine.
Oh, yes, we the portion of the committee that's working on the tree planting is headed up by Mary Lee Sayer and Lori Patty, and they're working with Chuck, and they've met with Louie about planting the trees at the industrial park rehab area. It looks like that's moving forward. They have a number of different scientists that are going to test the soil and make sure that we are planting the correct species and all sorts of things. So basically what I want to get from the council is just a consensus of support for planting the trees at the OIP, as long as all of the science pans out that it's a good idea to do it. So if you guys feel like that.
Yeah, because I made a comment earlier to you a few weeks ago about some of the trail plans or park plans that we have, some renditions that have been done, master plans that have been done. I mentioned it to Ben about, you know, since Diamond View is going to be redone, Green Waters is going to have some additions done. His suggestion was for next year's tree planting. Let's get the parks in and together and then go plant.
I love that idea.
So for next year, we'll do those. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I think, if I understand right, we're talking about a long-term project, tree for tree planting. It's always been a process of trying to figure out where we're going to plant trees. If we have them laid out in advance, then we don't have to worry about that. Those industrial projects. We're not going to be planting Mountain Woods anymore because there's no place to plant. So,
it would also be our create
yes.
and for beautification, create to do less trees, larger trees, so we do right. We're going to be working on sort of a vision, I think, for the tree moving forward. We've got some new members and revitalize it a little. So if everything pans out with the science, do we support planting trees at the front? Okay, good. And we have a meeting on Monday. I have 2 meetings on Monday.
Library board, Christine.
Yes, we have a meeting on Monday. No, I think I already reported on that.
ODAC.
We had a meeting with a potential client last Friday, I think it was, at the industrial park. Showed them some properties here in town, not only at the park, but also other locations throughout town that would benefit them coming in. Can't really say who it is at this point, but like I said, it would be, over a 2-year span, it would be 20 professional jobs, and then we'd have about 20 seasonal people per year that would be professional jobs as well. So it'd be a huge benefit to us, and it'd be a good benefit for them as well. So that's just preliminary. We're waiting for them to get back to us now, just what is it they really need, what can they afford, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, Regional Fiber Consortium, Glenn.
I haven't heard when they're meeting again.
I did forward to my, so I'll check on that for you.
Yes. Another thing too is the, as you've heard mentioned this evening, the canal. There's been, the engineers got involved. They've come up with some recommendations. There were 6 ideas that were put forth as to what we could do with the canal, and some cost on those. Basically, 2 of the plans were thrown out because they were just going to be too cost prohibitive. And it was narrowed down to 4, and then 1 of those is going to be coming forward as a recommendation shortly, once they get this information back from all the players.
So we're going to try, I'll try and forward you what I have already.
And it would be a good long-term fix for us. And so better.
Okay, thank you. Area Commission on Transportation. We met last month. Next meeting is on the 13th. We're in the process of prioritizing the STIP projects, which are the ones that are funded by grants in the state and so forth. A lot of those projects are safety projects, like, for example, doing something with Main Street through Springfield out of the east end where people can run over. Another one was the Territorial Road. If anybody's driven Territorial Road out to King Estates, it's an interesting experience. Those kinds of things. We didn't get in there because, frankly, I fell asleep the switch and did some of the project. We met today with ODOT to discuss the highway out here. Their plans for the highway, what they plan on doing. And they have some plans to do things. So we tried to revive, we pointed them again toward the project that was proposed several years ago at Drop to see if there's a course of that. And we're looking at that now, trying to incorporate that. So we're a little late right now, but at least we got our foot in the door for the project out here, so that Oakridge can do it. We do have a paving project out in the future, and this year the tunnel and the bridge at the Deception Creek, and what else was there? Those were the two main.
The tunnel. You mean for this summer?
For this summer, yeah.
Yeah, the tunnel, Deception Creek, and at milepost 51 where the river is eroding the
those are the three projects for this year.
The highway.
Paving won't take place before 2014 at the earliest, 2015 maybe, probably.
What are they doing Deception?
Strengthening the bridge.
Drilling more holes to make it stronger.
Yes, basically.
That's what they said last time.
Parks, Trails, and Tree Committee.
Your Honor, can we touch a little bit about the crosswalk pieces? Sure. That ODOT. ODOT actually did discuss crosswalks on Highway 58. Very unusual, and this is, I think I reported a few meetings back where I spoke with one of their engineers, and this spurred off of that, and she did do some work for her boss, so that's what she presented to us today off of the Highway 58 refinement plan. So what's kind of nice is the cost of those pedestrian islands has gone down significantly. They used to be about $100,000 a piece. What were they saying, Mayor? 30 to 35,000 a piece now, which is a lot more manageable. And the two areas that we're really looking at were there by Manning's, putting something, not necessarily a safety island there, but the crosswalks where they use the wide lines. They go like this about every 2 feet, and possibly some LED flashing lights that you can push. It wouldn't be an island, but there would be some flashing lights going, and then an island hopefully towards the center of town. So that's something that's
What brought the price down so much?
because there's been a lot of competition on bidding these jobs, and they've been putting in a lot of them all over the state.
Canton, Springfield, there's a lot.
Yeah, Springfield, Florence, all of them.
I was just wondering the price difference, because what you're seeing, I'm seeing a lot now in Springfield, they're not necessarily an island, but they're the lights that people, when they're flashing, and if there's a price difference in doing the island versus just the flashing.
Yes, like the first one I was talking about there at 2nd Street would be just the lines with lights.
Yeah,
there,
which gets people's attention.
You push a button right there at the crosswalk, and that would be as an exception, is what he told us, but it could be done. And then an island is the other piece.
But the comforting thing is they are looking at Oakridge now, and we are where we just sort of fell off the edge of the table and haven't had anything in a number of years. It's encouraging that, and I don't remember what they call it, the highway revitalization plan. Well done plan several years ago. A lot of people worked on it, some of you probably did, and it got shelved because of business objections and various other things. And unfortunately, I felt that was a premature way of dealing with it, because the things that came up from the businesses could have been dealt with. All right, shall we move on? Parks, Trails, and Tree Committee.
We're supposed to have a meeting next Thursday that we'll have to reschedule for another time.
Just to put it out there, you know, they were kind of big on putting a crosswalk over by the bridge, over by Salmon Creek.
Really, they weren't big on that. They didn't
Well,
like it.
that was the third. I mean, they basically posed 5 options. That was their third option. One was down there by McDonald's. The other one was up by Rainbow, and one Rainbow was the one that would have the push button with the